Religious Disease is the second full-length album from Stockholm, Sweden-based thrash metal band Disarray. They're pretty young, and the first thing they ever put out was a full-length album, and it was strong enough where it really makes sense they got signed and picked up for this record. In general, they're clearly very much capable of getting a recording going, making it all happen, like putting it all together. And Evil Ears Reborn was a good debut. I would have left it as a demo just because of the sound quality of it, and generally would want to reserve a lot of those songs to re-record under better circumstances. But for all intents and purposes, it was a pretty classic thrash sounding record with a lot of Slayer influences. I compare a lot of the riffs to Shaw, the Russian thrash metal band, as well as there was a clear influence from German thrash metal. They clearly enjoyed both United States speed metal and stuff like Creator. And I think that's translated pretty well to what this record is, which takes that Sacrifice Canada Creator kind of heaviness and focuses it in on Religious Disease. So we'll cut to a clip here, and I'll sort of get to what's special about this record and what is just kind of average about this record. So naturally, it's pretty easy to find Creator in a lot of modern thrash metal, especially the 86 to about 90 sound of that band, because it is fairly known structures. It is exciting in its writing. There's a lot of dynamic movement in it, and the riffs are able to hit one after another without a lot of interruption. I think that's something that this band inherits in some sense, but I would say there's more of a Sodom-esque, like a Persecution Mania era Sodom way that they string together their riffs. Their compositions are a little bit more simple, they're a little bit more direct, and they're punkish in some of the way that they develop. So there is a classic thrash metal sound, and there's certainly some heavier kind of death thrash and blackened elements to the way they sew these riffs together. But that's a nuance you're not really going to find unless you play this music on an instrument and understand how that works. But if you're a fan of the riff, they've got those all over this record. And when I'm comparing a thrash metal record to like No Return's first record, Psychological Torment, I'm enjoying myself because it's one of my favorite thrash metal records in general. It has a heavier touch to it, and I feel like the amount of reverb on the production values and the punkish movements and the way they hit these riffs, I don't know that it needed to be 50 minutes, but they do pull it off pretty well in terms of making sure every rhythm on this record sews together with another one and makes sense and conveys something that is close to a late 80s thrash metal sound. I wouldn't say this is the most extreme record. I wouldn't say it's the most dramatic record, but they really have taken a lot of very strong songwriting tips, and they paid attention to the song craft of both Bay Area thrash and European thrash metal in a way that Inculture did on their most recent record, where we get a sense for the presentation of thrash metal and not just the general elemental distillation of thrash metal. We so often get the distillation of thrash as a imitation of it in the way that they're recreations of the most potent forms of thrash, getting single after single in diminishing returns. And what we get from Disarray that is so interesting on this record is an album-minded presentation that builds up songs that are eventful. There's different song types they're attempting here, which are both classic and modern in some sense, which add to the record's theatrics and its interesting movement. Now, they don't have personality bleeding out the eyes yet, but that it still takes their sound close to something like, a Creator-esque sound. They do kind of build up something that's worth repeating upon within this whole record. Overall, I think they've done a great job with it. I think that it's a solid thrash metal record. You wouldn't mistake it for anything else, and it doesn't sound like anything less. So there's a very strong standard met here, and it does get a high recommendation from me. This releases on October 25th, along with a million other records, so check it out when you have time. And go ahead and read my review for more detailed thoughts on the innards of this record.